Hey, what's up? Zach here, and these are the biggest reasons that you should be considering buying the Anta KT7, specifically in this case, the Koi Fish edition. Now, the original production KT7 does have a traditional lace system. However, the Koi Fish edition does have a few different upgrades. Number one, a more reflective coating on the uppers. Number two, the Koi Fish colorway. And number three, and my favorite piece of shoe technology that I wish other companies would use, the boa closure system. Now, the boa closure system is named after a boa constrictor and how it constricts and it kind of twists around its prey, and that's how it kills it to eat it. Now, what it does is this central knob here is pushed down, and then it tightens these tines around the shoe. What happens is when you tighten this, when you spin it, it tightens these tines evenly across the shoe, which means you're getting even tension on each tine. Now, this was originally adopted for snowboarding boots because when you're carving side to side, you get a much stronger tie down. Plus, when you're in the snow, the laces can kind of come open and it's a real pain in the neck to tie them. However, it's also really well adapted for shoes, especially in the basketball and tennis space. Now, I love the security, durability, and frankly, ease of use of a boa closure system. The only thing I wish Anta would have done is, because they just used regular tines and they are pretty small, you're not getting a lot of surface area contact of the tines, whereas when Adidas used the boa closure on their Stycon laceless, they actually sewed the tines into these tabs that went across your foot. So you got a much better surface area contact, so the lockdown was just a tad better, versus on the boa on the Antas, where it does stay pretty thin up here on the tongue. The only thing I do like about this is, because the tines are so small, they can come up higher on the tongue, so you can really lock your ankle in if you want to. And speaking of the lockdown, what I really like about the Koi Fish edition is you actually get a wrap that comes up over that BOA closure and kind of gives you a double wrap here around the tongue and vamp of the shoe, which I really like because it kind of gives you two layers of security, plus this durability wrap that goes all the way around the shoe and kind of integrates with the TPU cage on the midsole. This shoe just gives you a ton of lateral stability while still remaining pretty darn nimble, which we'll talk about when I talk about the midsole. And like I said, the uppers are super secure in the fore and midfoot. However, if you look at the upper durability test, the Dremel 10-second Test Grit sandpaper, the Dremel just bites right through that upper clear coat layer right here in the toe box. So these uppers aren't going to be the most resistant to more friction and drag or sliding or toe dragging. Just make sure you watch out for that on an outdoor court. But getting into the Midsole Teardown, the KT7s have more going on in the midsole than just about every other shoe combined this year, maybe save for the LeBron 19. Now, the midsole is an entire bed of eTPU and nitrogen-infused pellets. Now, this kind of combines the best aspects of number one, Boost, number two, Under Armour Flow Foam, and number three, Puma Nitro Foam. This foam is a lot more responsive and bouncy than Boost is, but it has a ton of shock absorption. And what I like about that is it also incorporates a carbon fiber shank. Now, this carbon fiber shank is pretty ergonomic. It has a really steep arch into it. It doesn't really have any break-in because the foam over top of it is so dense and cushioned. So you're getting a lot of that great arch support that a carbon fiber shank that's molded would give you. However, you're not getting any of the discomfort that that carbon fiber shank should give you. Because remember, carbon fiber per ounce or per gram gives you a lot more energy return versus plastic or polypropylene or TPU. It's just that it's really hard to make carbon fiber comfortable, and carbon fiber can also be a little bit unforgiving, so you're not getting a lot of contour to the shoe. So sometimes it can make the shoe just not as responsive going side to side. And if you move back into the heel, I know everybody talks about this Smart S.A.M foam and it's supposed to be bulletproof. Now, this is just a much lighter and less dense, more rubberized EVA material. Now, there are a few types of foams that can be bulletproof. Number one is a metal type foam. And we're actually using those in scaffolds now to actually build back bone to people that had a lot of bone loss, say from a major trauma. But we also can do that with tire rubber. Now, I doubt that this shoe in particular is bulletproof. If you use this foam in large quantities, it will stop a bullet just because the density of that foam will end up stopping it. But what really this is for in this shoe is to give the heel a lot of responsiveness and a little bit more comfort. So when you're back on your heel or you're kind of landing on your heel or trying to bounce back up, these shoes will give you a really efficient bounce out of them. And if you're a heel to toe striker, this foam in here will just give you a little bit of an extra pop when you land on your heel for the next next stride. And with all these layers of responsiveness, cushioning, and bounce back, it's no surprise if you look at the jump height test, I got an average of 37 centimeters of jump height, which is just as good as the best shoes I've tested this year. And for people that really like a shoe that can give them a springboard effect, these do it better than just about any other shoe. But what I think are the real unsung heroes of the midsole and what makes this one of the best shoes of the year has got to be these external winglets that come up here from the carbon fiber shank. Now the one on the lateral side of the shoe or outside of the shoe comes from the carbon fiber shank and goes right up to the heel counter. What that does is that gives you a lot of lateral stability, not just in your midfoot, but also in your ankle. But if you go to the inside of the shoe, you get another one of these winglets that come up, but in this side, it's going to give you a lot more arch support and a lot more push off when you're just on the inside of the shoe or when you're trying to push off from a really awkward position. And this is a real performance first design because these actually do add a little bit of weight to the shoe. However, what they bring to the table just vastly outweighs the weight that they add onto the shoe. Now getting into the outsole tread, this is probably my least favorite part of the KT7. You kind of got this Formula 1 pattern here, and you got these real linear patterns going down the shoe. Now the rubber is incredibly tacky, so you are going to get a really good grip on a hardwood court as long as you are foot flat. As soon as you start moving the shoe back or forth, that's when the grip kind of starts to fade, especially on the inside of the shoe because it is a little bit more rolled rubber. If you're really trying to plant just on the inside of your big toe, you really have to watch out. If the court is any bit dusty at all, these will slip a little bit. However, if you are foot flat, these shoes are going to grip like suction cups. And the one thing that Anta really did very well was they made the lateral flange on the rubber a little bit wider than the lateral flange on the midsole. So the shoe suction cups really well when you're going side to side. So if you're trying to pivot on the outside of your shoe, the shoe is going to grip unbelievable. It's when you try to pivot on the inside of the shoe that I noticed them kind of rolling out from underneath of me a little bit. And that wider rubber flange also gives you a lot of balance when you're just standing still. If you look when I was just doing my little balance test, hitting shots with just one foot, on my dominant and non-dominant foot, I had zero issues hitting shots with no thoughts of tilting back or forth in these, a ton of stability even just on static stance. But the one surface these will grip on no matter what part of the shoe is touching them is an asphalt or concrete court. If you look at the suicide test, came in at 14.78 seconds. These shoes were gripping around turns so well, straightaways were so fluid, and I found I was actually able to accelerate into turns and accelerate out of turns so much easier on these shoes because they were grabbing that asphalt and concrete so well, both on the outside and on the inside. But on the flip side of that performance, if you look at the outsole durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, a little bit over a millimeter of damage on a 3mm tread depth. So these aren't going to be the least durable shoes out there. They're just not going to be the most durable shoes out there for outdoor use either. But the most important part of the buying decision, obviously, is the fit of the KT7. Now, these surprisingly were a little bit more generous to me than some other shoes. They do fit narrow, medium, and wide widths. Number one, because the BOA closure, it's going to sink around just about every foot type. Now, if you are somebody with a 2E or above foot, just remember that BOA is going to start to constrict around your foot, no pun intended. So I found when I really wanted to crank it, I was getting a little bit of irritation around the outside of my foot. Wasn't anything terrible, but I did notice it. So I would say if you are above a 2E, I definitely would go up that half size just to give yourself a little bit of room, but then I would probably put 2 socks on when using these. But I think the real kicker with the fit is these are going to fit ankle sprainers, flat-footed players, pretty much anybody with heel pain. So these shoes are really good for a lot of us snake-bitten, no pun intended either, players kind of in their mid-30s or just people that have had injuries before. These shoes are going to be a really good shoe to almost give you that kind of caged-in fit and a shoe that's going to kind of accommodate a lot of different foot types and a lot of different ailments. And kind of piggybacking off the fit of the KT7, the playability of these was something I really have not experienced yet this year, and that they almost made me feel like I had better footwork. They were super nimble from everywhere on the court. I feel like my jump shots were just easier to get off. I feel like it was just easier to hit layups. They were so nimble and just easy for me to get out of my own way in terms of my footwork. The grip was just exceptionally good, except when the rubber was cold and I was on the inside of my foot. And I really didn't feel the weight of these shoes whatsoever. Plus, with the BOA closure, I was really able to dial in exactly how tight I wanted these shoes. So I really did feel like I kind of had the ultimate creativity with these shoes, not only only just with my footwork, but also in just how I wanted them to fit. And so I definitely see a lot of Easter eggs in these for a lot of different playing styles. Number one, if you're someone that prides themselves on really quick, efficient, sharp, fluid footwork, a lot of agility on the court, in beating your opponent well before you've ever gotten to the net or taken a shot, then these are really going to give you an ability to get out of a crowd and the ability to get some space between you, your opponent, and being able to hit a shot. Number two, if you're trying to beat an opponent in the air, these are going to give you a bit of a vertical assist too, even off of awkward positions or off of one foot. These shoes have enough balance in them to really give you some ups, even from awkward positions. And number three, if you just pride yourself on speed, these things are wicked quick on straightaways. So really, no matter where you're trying to play on the court or who you're trying to play, these are going to give you some sort of assist in pretty much any scenario. And if you do end up getting the Koi Fish edition, there are these 1.98 ounce Koi Fish that actually come with them. I thought these were actually pretty cool. I actually did weigh them, and yeah, nice touch. But of course, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Number one, are you a fan of the KT7? Number two, are you a fan of the boa modification on the Koi Fish edition? Let me know down below. And so if you've made it this far in the video, first of all, thank you. And number two, I'm sure you're realizing what I'm talking about now with just how much was going on with this shoe. Now, if you remember, I said there's one other shoe that may have just as much going on with it, and that is the LeBron 19. So if you want to see me cut the LeBron 19s open, make sure you click in this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam and snake-like closure systems. I'll see you in the next video.